I haven't personally seen the receipt where Dillian says there was foul play at hand. And some people are saying that Dillian's sample was spiked. Some people are saying Dillian is saying that Eddie spiked his sample. Now, a lot of the speculation started with the revelation that Derek Chisora knew that Dillian was going to pop before it came out. And David Hay said as much on video. Now, you don't think the British Boxing Board of Control would be asking Derek, well, how did you know that? How did you come by this information? Especially if he brought it to the public's attention. Do you think he'd be fighting Saturday, licensed by the British Boxing Board of Control, whether it's a temporary license or not? No, he wouldn't. They don't believe it. Anyone can say anything after the information is formally in the public's domain. And if they weren't trolling and they were serious, they snitched on themselves because they let us know that, oh, we knew Dillian was going to pop and Derek's going to get a title shot on the back of that. Well, that's not going to happen now, is it? I mean, Derek's just told us that he was privy to information that he shouldn't be privy to, and now he wants a world title shot on the back of that with a British Boxing Board of Control license. Let's not let this one get any more legs than it has. It's dead. They can make up any story, but why would you choose to believe that it's true rather than made up? Because you want it to be true. Eddie Hearn spiking Dillian's sample? What, him personally, or he got someone to do it? What would the motive be for Vada or Eddie to do that? Because he couldn't do it without Vada's help. So what, were DAZN in on this? There's no actual credible receipt of Dillian saying that Eddie did this either. Why take the fight in the first place? And if they took the fight and started getting cold feet, isn't there easier ways to get out of the fight? Like, why not fake an injury? It would be easier to fake a sick note than do all that shit and rig Dillian's drug test to get out of the fight. Like, when did they get that shook of Dillian? It's weird. Like, I've been referred to as a Matchroom shill or whatever, but it's them who believe that Eddie has superpowers. Like, how did he do it? Why would he do it? What's the motive? Looks a little risky to do something like that for any of the promoters in Britain. I'm not saying it's all roses between Eddie and Dillian. I'm not. Because Eddie's been saying stuff like,
on Dillian Whyte, it seems a bit bizarre that obviously yes, he hasn't been contracted to, but you've always had a good relationship, a close relationship. He's fought majority of his career on Matchroom. I haven't heard you speak about a phone call with Dillian directly or communication directly. Why is that?
Because I haven't got that kind of relationship with him.
Anymore?
Ever. We've never spoken on the phone individually.
And Dillian, doing damage control, I guess, he said they didn't give him a chance to prove he was innocent before they cancelled the show. So it sounds like he feels that Hearn is just discarding him. You are no longer relevant. We're moving on. Now, whether that's misguided by Dillian or not, that's how he feels, and if that's how he feels, that's how he feels. But Eddie and Fabio Wardley seemed pretty tight when they were going back and forth with Fraser Clark and Ben Shalom. Even though Fabio doesn't have contract with Matchroom, he's a free agent, fight-to-fight basis, they seem pretty tight. Now, all of a sudden, the purse bid for Fabio Wardley versus Adelaide gets cancelled.
I'm not saying there's a rift between yourself and Dillian Whyte, but Fabio Wardley's managed by Dillian Whyte. It looks like Fabio might go and try and do a deal on his own, put Matchroom on the side for now. From our side, can you see, have you seen the picture?
I spoke to Fabio and he made me aware of the situation, which is he's had a one-fight offer from Queensbury to do that fight. If we don't make the same offer, or close to bid at purse bids, he should probably take that.
Now, I'm not going off on a tangent and say, oh, he's leaving Matchroom, because we don't know what's happening. But that didn't seem to be on the cards. Dillian wasn't doing no business with Queensbury, especially after they stiffed him on the split when he fought Fury. And him and Frank haven't had good relations. But all of a sudden, they're prepared to look at a deal with Queensbury, stall the purse bid for a month. Never say never, but I have a feeling that the Dillian Whyte Matchroom association is over, at least temporarily. And then I was checking Frank Warren's response to Dillian getting popped compared to how he responded to Dillian getting popped in 2019, and it's chalk and cheese.
People say, oh, you're having a go at Dillian Whyte because he's with Hearn. It's not about that. It's about our sport. It's about making sure our sport can be as safe as possible. Still sitting here, what's happened to the B sample? Where is it? All this talk going on at the moment, I don't know what's going on with it. Maybe you know better than I do. But the fact of the matter is, nothing has been said. That can't be right for our sport. Where's the transparency?
That was 2019. Oscar Rivas, yeah? That was 2019. And he made several videos asking where the B sample is, causing all the ruckus he could cause. But then, Dillian adverse finding this week. Same thing as last time, Oscar Rivas was adverse finding, but this week Frank Warren changes his tone and his pitch in an unexpected response to the news that Dillian popped this week. As he told TalkSport, it's a great shame, but the best way to deal with this is for a hearing to be conveyed as soon as possible, and if what White says is true, he'll be exonerated, and if it isn't, then that will be the end of him for a long time. Now that was very diplomatic. Gave Dillian a soft spot to land. Now when I first heard he responded like this, I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't say anything, but something in my mind said, why the pacifist response? Why are you not taking the chance to tear Dillian a new one? Well, his son, George, is negotiating the deal with Fabio, isn't he? Now it could be a one-fight deal that leads to a situation like Eddie Hearn, where they just work on a fight-to-fight basis. You never know. Frank thinking that, we could have the British heavyweight champion boxing on TNT Sports, but the British champion is managed by Dillian. So all of a sudden, he's making sure he doesn't piss off Dillian. So he can hold his tongue if necessary. And George probably gave him the heads up, Dad, leave it. Like, no disrespect to a lot of people who interact in the boxing discussion, but some people think that they can do business in the corporate world like selling a bag of weed on the street. And you can't. Well, you can, but generally, if you're a serious player, you can't. So when I was explaining to a few people about a gentleman's agreement between Frank Warren and Ben Shalom when Joseph Parker was supposed to go over to Queensbury and fight Joe Joyce, and then it ended up reneging on the agreement, a lot of people were saying, well, so what? Nothing was signed, it doesn't matter. It does matter. There's a circle of powerful players, and even if they don't like each other and they find out that you're not good to your word, whether it's a gentleman's agreement or you got shit in writing, you could find yourself in issues doing business with the big players. Yes, you could. And I was explaining that to people and they're saying, no, it doesn't matter. And what happened? Ben Shalom straightened out some business with Joseph Parker, signed him on a contract, and then let him go over to Queensbury and fight. You can't just run rogue. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can do it, but you won't last. It doesn't work like that. There are certain codes. And if Fabio is set to get his biggest purse ever with a deal with Queensbury and George Warren, whether he's on a fight-to-fight basis won't matter. It won't be one fight. It will be a couple of fights, especially if he wins. If he beats David Adelaide, it's going to be more than a one-fight deal. It's going to be at least 2 or 3 fights or a rematch clause thrown in. Now, it looks like Eddie tried to sign Fabio to a multiple fight deal before the purse bid went ahead. Eddie clocked on that his relationship with Fabio had likely changed after the events this week with Dillian. So Eddie needed something concrete on paper rather than this fight-by-fight thing that was going so well. Rumour has it that Derek had a phone call with Dillian, not post drug revelation. And Derek told Dillian he's fucked. And he did mention that someone spiked his test. There's also talk of the substance that Dillian used is a no-brainer, put him in boxing jail offence. It's supposedly a substance similar to EPO, but like the channel I got it from, I don't want to get sued. It's also being said that Dillian has a Portuguese boxing license. Now, when's the last time there was a significant boxing card, professional boxing card in Portugal? Who takes out a Portuguese license? What does he use it for? And they're saying when he pops back into the UK to fight, he gets a temporary license from the British Boxing Board of Control. And this is an elaborate rouse that other fighters have done also to avoid UCAT testing.
Apparently.
Have you guys heard anything about that in the comment section? I'll be interested. Educate me. If there's any truth in it, how does it work? Say like AJ training out in America with Derek James, or Eubank training out in America with Bo Mack. Can they still have the yearly British license if they're training out there, or do you have to be a citizen in these countries where you have to reapply for a temporary British license? I mean, any of them could be cheating out there. I mean, if there's any truth in this, then you could put Joshua, Eubank, Fury, Katie Taylor. Dillian already got popped, but you could put loads of fighters in the frame. Eubank, who train over in America. Joshua Boazzi, Lawrence Okoli. I'll be reading the answers in the comment section, and if anyone can give me an elaborate breakdown that is well presented, I will use it, and do some research myself. I will use it, and I'll credit you. Looks like Jai Opataya could be fighting either Jordan Thompson or Marius Bradis, but it's likely to be Marius Bradis after Richard Riakporhe pulled out, withdrew from the bid on the day, because he said it was him who withdrew. He didn't say Ben Shalom, so I've got to take his word at face value. And if this is the language of fighters signed to boxer, well, I like Richard Riakporhe, but I'll say this: if you personally withdrew and you wasn't coerced by Ben or Sky to do so, then in my opinion you didn't fancy your chances of beating Jai Opataya. You didn't fancy your chances and you gave up on your dream. I won't say the same for Fraser Clark, because he clearly wanted the fight and was visibly upset when he was withdrew by Ben Shalom. But Richard is saying he withdrew himself. When Fraser was asked, could he contractually have went against Ben withdrawing him, he stuttered all over the place. So I don't know what to think there. I'll go into my reasons later, post-fight. But Robert Helenius is a bully, a coward, and in my opinion, a cheat. And when taking on heavyweights, his height, his size, more than likely will crumble. And I hope AJ beats the brakes off him tonight. I really do. Post-fight, I'll explain more. It'd be unfair to express why I feel that way about him right now. Let me just say, he's one of them fighters who, when home advantage is taken from him, he becomes very ordinary, apart from the Adam Karanaki fights.